This week on the Silicon Valley After Show, we deal with artificial lips on robots and humans, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I bow down to the overlords.
The Overlords. Girl Talk. Any of you guys Girl Talk fans? Or is it Eric the Architect?
Yeah, from Flatbush Zombies.
You're an Eric the Architect fan.
I am.
I am a Girl Talk fan. I saw him in college.
I've never seen.
Well, guys, speaking of art, it's the Silicon Valley After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. As I mentioned, we're covering facial recognition, written by Graham Wagner and directed by Gillian Robespierre, of whom I'm a huge fan. She's normally a film director, but she's directing TV now, which is pretty cool. And we're going to get into it today, but before we get into specific details, I'm surrounded by a panel of brilliant folks, including Phil Svitek.
The only girl talk I like is Fiona.
Nice.
I'm Christian Bladt. Come on, let's slap each other, right? That's a thing.
And Nathan.
I'm Nate, not Nathan.
I've done that before, and he told me not to.
Did he call you Nathan?
He did. We're moving past it.
Dog like Nathan.
Nate Miller.
Don't say that too many times, then the AIs will absorb
take
that into
over.
their memory and start calling me Nathan.
So, as I mentioned, guys, this is the Silicon Valley After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. If you're listening in your car, we're actually here on a Monday at 4 p.m. live, and you can always catch us that way, so we'd recommend it. Do any of you guys have the chat pulled up? I was reading we had some fans in the chat last week, and they were not. We're going to pull up the chat for any of you guys who might be there as well. But we're going to go ahead and get into this coverage. Before we get into our topic-specific breakdown, guys, we, as always, have some amazing segments, including Silicon Valley in real life. We also have our news. Phil brought us some amazing news this week. And
We
our
get the
quote
box.
of the week.
Stay tuned for what the hell that means.
Stay tuned. We're going to get into it. But before we get into all of that, I would love to hear everyone's overall thoughts on this episode of Silicon Valley. Nate, let's start with you.
I thought it was okay. It had some good laughs for me, but overall, I was kind of whatever on it.
Okay. Christian.
As always, it continues to be Jared's world, and we're all just visiting it. This was another banner episode for him. Some very good Guilfoyle moments too, but just the big takeaway is Jared has really gotten to shine this year. So on the whole, no, it's it seems like another one of those connective tissue episodes where next week will be a much bigger one, kind of the way last week was. And but for Jared, well done, sir.
Yes. Phil.
I can't take Nate's opinion seriously anymore. I think we differ too much. I love this episode. I know it's building up to some things. The only hesitation I had was, are we revisiting season 2 with the whole deleting of files? Luckily, we didn't go that route, so I was happy. A lot of good comedy, good plot.
Yeah, there was something kind of like moving about seeing this Fiona subplot play out in the way that it did. Obviously, this was probably shot and written before any Me Too stuff, but I think there was some, you could argue, commentary on, I don't know. I just thought that kind of rang in a very specific way now that we're in a post-Weinstein world.
I think that was definitely intentional.
That's what I wonder, though, is if they would have had time to,
I think so.
in their production schedule.
I mean,
because they shot in the summer, right?
Well, chauvinist guys, I mean, that's been around so recently.
Yeah,
like, it's not like no one could have ever
It's
thought
not.
of
It's not
that.
like it's new. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it may have not been specifically for that most recent movement, but
Right.
it's of the same vein. It would be significant either way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought a refreshingly feminist perspective to take in a show that gets criticized for not representing females well. Granted, of course, this was a female robot. I guess you could argue that it's a bummer that the best they could do in this case was a non-human, but I'd be interested to see what you guys think in the comments about how that specifically was handled. And we'll get more in detail about all of that as we get into our specific coverage, which we're getting into right now. Basically, the way I want to break down this episode, guys, is by starting about the Richard and Jared of it all with their Bloomberg appearance, then talking about, of course, Ariel Ecklow and his robot Fiona, and finally Gavin's world, is I feel like how we always sort of end our coverage. So let's start by talking about Richard and Jared. Christian and I agree this was an excellent Jared episode. Let's start by talking about him specifically because we see yet another side of Jared, physically and emotionally. How did you guys feel about Down/Jared in this episode of Silicon Valley?
Manure. I think that, I mean, obviously, Richard should not really be the one always out there talking about the product on television or anywhere, in all honesty. So I think that it's great to see. Like, look, it's one of the, he always tries to do these little motivational workshops and things. Clearly, he can talk about the company, but he also talks so highly about Richard. He's actually a great spokesperson. Now, of course, he got it in his head that his nose was too big. But if he would just stay out of himself, I think that he's definitely somebody who can be very successful if he just wouldn't keep getting in his own way. But getting in his own way is what makes the show funny.
Absolutely.
I just think that the fact that Dinesh thought he was a great public speaker and that's what triggered this is the more comedic side to it all.
Yeah, I agree. Were you guys surprised that, based on the cold open, I expected Jared to tank? Were you surprised when they kind of turned that on its head and he actually got featured?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised just because of the way that it's cut with him just saying manure and then it cutting. But I don't know. Like I was when Richard talked, I was not expecting that to go well.
Right.
I figured they would edit that up so it sounded bad or something. Like I wasn't expecting his side to go well either. So I don't know, kind of in the middle. But
I mean, it is tough because Richard's theme park analogy actually was one of the best spoken things he's done all season.
Right.
But it gets completely discarded. I did know that was coming because I read the description of the episode, so
Nice.
it ruined it for me, and I just wasn't. I wasn't thinking about it. I'm just like, oh, this is the one I want to watch, and so I don't know. I didn't get to enjoy the surprise.
Direct
so.
TV spoiled you.
Yeah, they definitely did. Yeah.
To be fair, Richard did not actually answer the question.
That's true.
She asked, when can we expect it?
That's true.
He
Yeah,
just
that was really
regurgitated
annoying.
something that he probably had on his mind the entire time.
Did
but
Jared's-
did not actually...
But did Jared's question answer it?
Well, he wasn't answering that question.
That's right. Yeah.
So he answered the question he was given.
Yeah.
Okay?
I did
Different
look it
things.
up, and the Great Horse Manure Crisis of 1894 is in fact a real thing. So props to the writers on their verisimilitude. That's awesome. So this was an interesting subplot. One thing we were talking about is we were very impressed by the realism of Jared's prosthetic lips. You do have to shout out whoever handled that. It looked really good.
It did. It looked convincing and it
probably
made me
just
not
real
want to watch.
Botox.
Well, more happened
committed.
in this subplot, but I feel like I'm going to save it because Richard does some soul searching, but it connects directly to our next subplot, which
I do
is...
want to point out, just
Yes.
this is early, but my favorite quote. Adrian Grenier wants to interview. Adrian Grenier from Devil Wears Prada? Of course.
I'm glad you brought up the Adrian Grenier stuff because I almost forgot. And I love, first of all, there's some HBO synergy there, right? Because we all know him from Entourage. But
No, Devil Wears
Devil Wears
Prada.
Prada.
That's
Why
what
would
I'm
you
trying
even
to
say? I don't even know what Entourage is.
thank you. You're right. I did kind of expect him to show up, though. I felt like, I don't know if we'll see him later in the season, but I was kind of bummed that he didn't appear. Did you guys think we were going to see him?
I thought we would.
Because
I think it would have been fun if we had, but I don't think that, there's the line that I should have taken down, but it's like when Adrian Grenier asks you to be on his internet lifestyle show or whatever that quote was, that's not the kindest thing to him. So, maybe they were having a little fun at his expense because then you start to think like, yeah, when was the last time I saw Adrian Grenier or however you say it? The Entourage movie, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
That's why I wanted to see him, though, is because I was like, I don't know what else he's doing. Because it's one of those things where you do see actors, even in potentially insulting roles, appear, or in potentially insulting portrayals appear on the shows that they're being criticized for. So I just thought we might see him, but...
Not this time.
Speaking of tech, am I pinging it all in your guys' headphones? I think...
No.
Okay, good.
No.
As long as I sound good, I'm good to go. I do want to move on to talk about Richard Fiona and Ariel Ecklo, though. I thought this was an interesting subplot. And again, I think they're finding creative ways to bring in Lori, Bream, and Monica. That got me my favorite quote of the show, which was Lori kind of pushing them to pursue this Ecklo connection with, "You're completely within your rights to bitterly disappoint your largest investor." That was a very Lori Bream way to influence the guys to make this connection. But how did you guys feel about Ariel Ecklo, and what did you guys think of Fiona when we first met her?
Creepy.
yeah,
to
that's
say the
actually
least.
what I was about to say. Just the way she looked and moved around, I'm like, that's creepy. So how did they actually do this? Because never replicate this effect because it's too much for me.
Yeah, I was impressed. Like, they did a good job of, I don't know how they did that, but they really did a good job of capturing, like, the current state of artificial intelligence robots. Like, we're just getting into the uncanny valley, I feel.
There's a robot that looks just like that. not just like that, but very similar to that has like full citizenship in like Saudi Arabia. That happened sometime last year. I don't know if you guys saw that. I should have sent the link.
Well,
to you
we're
guys.
teasing our
I'm not doing my
Silicon
due
Valley in
diligence.
real life.
Yeah,
That may or
I'll
may
get it-
not
I'll
be
get it
one
for you
of
next
the,
week,
that
but-
may or may not be one of the stories we're talking about this week. So stay tuned.
Oops.
No, it's cool. Actually, Jules, if you want to quickly pull up a photo of Sophia the robot, you guys can see what I'm sure the inspiration for Fiona
Yeah,
was.
that was the thing for me. It was very creepy of like, whoa. Like, it's like, not like a joke, like, oh, it's like a doll AI. Like, it was like I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if that was like, it must have been a person.
I
right?
feel like it was a
makeup, It had to have been a
person,
person.
just
with
some
like
kind
a
of
bald
effect,
cap
but
or
yeah.
something with
Yeah.
that had incredible facial muscle control.
Well, when you kind of compare that to Jared, both are kind of indistinguishable as far as, how they act.
There she is. So for those of you guys watching on YouTube, you can see we have a video of Sophia, and it's pretty clear to me that Fiona was probably based on this design. Don't you guys think?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Although I can't tell if either one of these people is real in this video right here.
Especially
So
because they
I'm
use
sure that was intentional.
I'm glad they have the guy from Midnight Oil here.
/ Barry, I think. If you guys are watching that, no, Hank.
Is that him? Is that the...
I don't think it is, but he looks a lot like. It looks a
No,
lot
I don't
like
think
him.
so.
But I was impressed by
Actually,
this.
it does look a lot like him.
It might be. Either way, I was very impressed by this decision to bring in Fiona the robot, and I think they did nail the current state of where we're at with this. And I will say, however they did it, I found it hilarious that she was following him through the room. Even though this stuff was creepy, I thought it was pretty. I found it very funny.
I loved him just walking behind her.
Yeah.
She's this terrifying AI, immense, intellect, and he just walks behind her to where she can't turn around and see him.
And I
it's
like
this
the way
left
that
room.
she clicks, trying to turn around. He's just like, well, I figured out a way to beat the AI. Is just sit behind it.
It was great.
I appreciate the fact that they were able to bring in two, I guess, ideologies, if you want to call them that. Number one, this notion that, of course, if you're going to build an artificial intelligence, it's going to be so you can have sex with it. Mm-hmm. That's been a cliche in so many different places. And then, of course, Guilfoyle.
Yes.
So I appreciate the dichotomy there.
Yeah, we were talking about before we went live, but this season has used Guilfoyle very well. I will say, overall, I've been sort of disappointed with the way they've used Dinesh this season. I feel like we haven't really seen enough of him.
I think he's being used mostly for gags, like the cutaway to karaoke and then saying, you're going to come see BattleBots with me. So there have been good jokes for
There have
Dinesh,
been.
but he hasn't done anything. There's no Dinesh story other than being a roommate and being the leaker to the mole.
Yeah.
Disagree. I think he's fulfilling his story balance of being the yang to the yin that is Guilfoyle. Guilfoyle is constantly doing things that are helping the company right now, fixing problems and bringing things to the attention and falling in line to help the AI overlords. Whereas we see Dinesh on the opposite side, leaking information, giving Jared bad advice about what to do.
Yeah, you're right.
He's not. I mean, I can see why you would think he's not as prominent, but he's involved in a lot of the things that are going on, especially with the major plot movements.
So you would say he's the Jin Yang to Guilfoyle?
Oh no!
Thank you.
I walked
I'm
into
very
that.
happy with that one.
I'm leaving now.
But Nathan, come back.
Yeah, I thought this was good. It is smart to use Guilfoyle in this way because clearly AI has been sort of a running theme throughout this whole season, and we know that this would be Guilfoyle's take. In fact, I found the characters to be at least very consistent. I feel like I've been a bit bummed with maybe some of the stakes and plot movement we've gotten being 5 episodes in now, but to use Guilfoyle in this way to bring up Roko's basilisk, which is a theory in robotics, is genius. That is what Guilfoyle would say. And to use Fiona to bring out Richard's insecurities is another great example of character consistent writing. So I like the way that the characters have been used this season, but I do feel like I could use a little more engine in what's actually happening plot-wise.
I think that's why I didn't really like this episode that much, because especially coming off last one with all the mole stuff that was going on alongside the Christianity stuff, I felt like this time we got much less of what was the forward plot and more of just kind of sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Here was what else, kind of building for what's going to come next, but I felt like a lot of the momentum that was there earlier in the season that was refreshing wasn't really in this episode.
Also, no big head this week.
Yeah.
Right, which
so,
is that's like
See,
10 points.
every
win.
time you're on the show.
I know.
Big Head's not going to be.
So
on the
I'm going to miss next week apparently
Absolutely.
because we see Big Head in the coming attractions.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys this. I know we're not necessarily. Some of us are tech savvy, some of us are not. That's okay. But it just reminded me. I mentioned it in the overall thoughts, the deletion stuff, right? And I was worried we were going down that way. It just seems like there's no backups of any kind, and I didn't understand the severity of everything. I know we lost a couple of things, but I didn't know to what extent and what that actually meant.
I interpreted it as like data was compromised. Like it wasn't so much that data was lost, but that it was like leaked. I don't know. Is that not?
They said there was some work that was lost.
It seemed like a week's worth, so maybe the backup hadn't been done. I don't quite understand that aspect of it, but it seemed like only recent work was lost.
But if you are, let's say you're on a major programming team and people have different tasks assigned to them, people may not, you might be working on different servers with different tasks, and when you're done with the tasks, then you ship them to the main server, and it gets married up, and then that's what it is now. So if there's damage that's happening while the stuff is in development, it's not even finished, there's no reason for it to have been backed up or saved anywhere else because they're still working on it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That's
That's not how the blockchain works, Nathan.
You guys are, ooh.
But I mean, as far as that, I'm glad I appreciated and I understood it. Like they exposed this centralized thing that was supposed to be just 8 companies to, when Guilfoyle's like it's not possible to have a DDoS attack. Well, it is if you expose it to the entire internet, which was what Ariel did. That bastard.
That bastard. But was it Ariel or was it Fiona, Phil?
Did he
was
expose to the
Ariel.
internet, or was he just DDoSing from his own port?
Well, that's what he did in order to shut it down.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
created DDoS attack, which is denial of service.
Right.
And what he did is just exposed it to the actual internet.
Okay.
See, that's why the actual internet is complete manure.
That's why we need
No
the new
argument
internet.
here.
Going back to something Nate said just a minute ago, you were mentioning how like last week we got some movement, but this week was sort of more of a character episode, sort of a sideways turn narratively. I feel like for me with Silicon Valley, I'm okay with these sort of diversion episodes, but I don't like when there's 2 of them in a row. Like, I feel like if we get 2 sort of character-driven, sitcom-y episodes, that's when I sometimes get frustrated, because I'm like, I do want to see movement, because it does feel like a show whose... I think the strengths of its show often do hinge on plot and stakes, so I think that's my complaint is...
Sorry.
You're fine. I wouldn't mind something like this if it were to be interrupted by an episode where we learn a lot, but...
Right.
Yeah, I still thought they handled the robot stuff well. And, like, it's clearly a theme that they want to, like, address this season, and I think they did it in a pretty interesting way this episode.
Well, they've
so.
talked about Skynet before.
Yeah, you're
Remember,
right.
I mean, when Pied Piper was first introduced.
Right.
So it's like Skynet.
Yeah, Terminator gone wrong. So, good stuff. The one thing I haven't mentioned yet was Phil does not make it to this board meeting about the compromised data because he decides to fill in for Jared's post, which is teaching inner city youth about tech.
I like that you called Richard Phil.
I said Phil.
You did
I've done this
definitely
Phil's
say
always
that.
working.
Yeah,
Everyone's,
Phil's
"Where's
always
Phil?"
working.
I'm always
Phil's
working.
always working.
I've done this 3 times on that on this after show. So Richard fills in for Jared's post as teacher of inner city youth. I thought this might have been to me the funniest moment of the episode. I don't know what you guys thought.
It's my favorite Richard moment of the season because he's so happy. He finally found people that can appreciate him and he can relate to them. He can talk to a room full of kids.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great, especially when he swore like 3 times in front of them.
It was great.
Yeah, I loved the idea that was the outlet he'd been looking for. Even Fiona didn't really give him the feedback that he wanted. But that room full of kids, they appreciate how
appreciate-
Richard's
They were
always working.
mesmerized.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, cool. Anything else related to sort of Richard, Jared, or Fiona, or Ariel Eckrow before we move on?
I
That
thought
was creepy.
as far as commentary in terms of valuations and money given, I thought it was interesting enough. We don't need to necessarily go into it, but $112 million spent basically on this guy's sex project.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I love the way that Lori answers his question of do I have to do this? And he's like, no, you don't. But if you want to piss off your largest
Yeah. investor,
you should.
Yeah.
And
She's like, Lori's like, okay.
it was
cool,
a
right?
line that we threw around before we started, but when she is talking about Jin Yang's, stealing everything, if you lose to that, look inward, which is a great Lori Breen quote.
Yeah, very efficient writing with that character this week especially. Okay, cool stuff. So that gets mostly settled. It feels like the Octopipers are going to still be on board pending their ability to shut Ariel down.
And is that name still working, Octopipers?
I mean,
Well,
it's
now
being used.
We've kicked Ariel out.
Well, so we're down to 7 now, right?
I think he was the 9th,
Yeah.
right? So
No, well, the Christian
because the
was
Christian
the
guy's
Oh,
gone.
you're right.
Yeah.
So now it's the Septopipers.
Oh boy.
We'll see if it sticks. Okay, before we move on to all the stuff with Gavin, we actually do have an amazing partner that we'd like to shout out. In the very relevant world of tech and employment, it is our friends over at ZipRecruiter.
Are you hiring? Posting your position to job sites and waiting for the right people to see it? ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find your next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applicants you receive, so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Right now, listeners and viewers of this show can try ZipRecruiter for free. Oh, you heard me right. That's free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/buzz. That's ZipRecruiter.com/buzz. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Should Richard have not just gone to ZipRecruiter in the first episode of the season? Wouldn't that have just solved all of the problems they had? The show wouldn't have been as entertaining.
Well, the irony was that he did. It's just Gilfoyle and Dinesh were
That's true.
messing it up.
All the
He had
sta-
ZipRecruited so many good hires.
I think Nate makes a good point. All the stallions probably were from ZipRecruiter.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Speaking of hires of that company, we actually will have 2 guests next week. I'm going to tease them now. We have Rachel Rosenblum and Chris Acquiano, who play the 2 sort of ringleaders of Sliceline, and who am I missing?
Optimoji.
Optimoji, thank you.
Optimoji.
And they'll be here next week, and they'll more heavily feature in that episode. So we can't wait for that. Make sure you tune in. We
Do
have
you
one.
think the Slice Line guy's going to bring pizza?
He better. I told him he wasn't allowed in the room unless he did.
It doesn't work for Sliceline anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but
very
he still gets
insensitive.
pizza.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you think they did with all that pizza?
Yeah.
He just put it in
Well,
the
we
freezer.
can't pay you, but we can give you pizza for life.
The last thing we have to talk about, guys, is Gavin's World, which has been the recurring C plot of this whole season. Personally, well, just to catch you guys up, this is, of course, we have Denpak reintroduced. It was good to see Denpak again. Of course, we didn't know where he had landed,
Yes, Chala.
but he lands in real estate.
I love that he's like showing a home.
Yeah.
When Hoover shows up.
It did look like a nice home, I will
Sign
say.
in first, please.
Yeah, the 4 of us could put our lifetime incomes together and not afford that home. And
Shout
so
out to
could
Caldwell Banks.
Caldwell. But it was good to see Denpak back. How did you guys feel about this Gavin Denpak reunite and eventually reformation of the trifecta?
I want new characters.
Do you?
He was okay. Like, he served his purpose. Denpak is not a character, in my opinion, that needed to come back.
Yeah, I hear
And
you.
and with a show that is struggling with sameness and a lot of like lack of progression, I think this was not like it. I don't think it helps the show,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Maybe we'll see, and it'll be funny in the end. They'll come up with something, but I don't know. It just seemed like they were like, man, we need someone to fill whatever is their plot. We need someone to play this role.
Right.
Who can we bring back? Oh, we can bring him back.
Denpak is a thing we can do.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a tired retread, more for the Gavin aspect. It's like he's starting to doubt it all, like, again, and it's like, well, all right, but he already came back from that, you know, and it's too soon for him to go through it again. At least that's what I felt. But I did enjoy the storyline. I liked the interaction between Hoover and Denpak and sort of how they played off of each other. But yeah, it would be great if there were someone else, you know, filling that role in the episode, some new character.
Did they explain why he made this decision to move away and have a child and all that stuff?
No, well,
did I
he
miss
said it was
It's
inexplicable.
Just
Because they
because
wanted to
because
get-
the plot.
Because
Yeah.
they wanted to get Denpak back on the show.
Yeah.
That's why he did.
Yeah, it does
At
feel
least the
like
bear honey stuff was like
funny.
I did like the bear honey stuff.
it
That
was
actually really
he
fun.
literally it was just sticky. So, like in
Bear
Right.
sticky with
the bear
honey.
sticky with honey. It does feel like when you have such a deep bench, when you have a Big Head or a Christy Mentopoulos, why can't I think of his character name? Russ Henneman. That's the actor's name, is Chris Diamantopoulos. When you have a deep bench like that, it's interesting to pull from your roster and get Denpak back in the show, because he's never necessarily been a comic character. He's more been just a character who drives stories. So if they have a really interesting way to go with this, I'm in, but...
I think this show has just had quite a few... Like, even if you look at Russ Henneman, when Russ Henneman was introduced as a new character, a new wild personality that is a memorable character on the show, I would just like more new characters. We're 5 seasons in. Like, we have the Optimoji slice line people, but we haven't really seen them that much.
Right.
Like, what other new characters have we got, really?
Do you think that there was maybe some concern, and when they mapped out the season was like, look, we're not going to have Erlich here, so let's plug in some familiar faces throughout the year to kind of soften that loss. I mean, that's one
I could
reason
see
I can
that,
come
yeah.
up with. But then there'll be no excuses next season for not more new faces.
As far as that, the fact that we have yet to interact with Jeff on a more meaningful level, the mole.
The mole.
You know, we don't...
Yeah.
Like, A, why was he the mole? B, now that he's not the mole...
He still has to come in.
Yeah, like, there's so much to play with there. I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
I think we'll see him again. I think, like, there was enough attention given to him that it might not be till episode 9 or 10, but something will happen with that. I feel like they've planted seeds that they will let grow. But we'll see.
I mean, as far as this storyline, just sets up the fact that we're launching the box and we're all
Yes. Let's talk about this box presentation. This was funny. I mean, like, that penis joke, it has great replay value for me. I don't know how you guys feel, but I find it funny every time.
I don't mind a good penis joke.
The show's
Getting
full
kind
of
of
them,
lukewarm on it. But it was new to Deepak, so
That's true.
I appreciated his, like...
Does it kind of look like... Yeah.
I
it
did-
was
I
nice
did
to
like
see
that.
Hoover, like, not be ignorant about something and just be like, no, we know it's a penis. We're just
going with it.
not saying anything.
Don't tell
That
Gavin.
was funny.
Yeah. Okay, well, I feel like that's mostly our coverage of the episode. Any other thoughts before we move on to some of our very special segments? Well, let us know what you guys thought in the comments. I think we were a little more mixed on this episode than sometimes. Of course, we always love this show, but when you have A+ episode after A+ episode, sometimes, you know, an A- doesn't feel like it quite reaches up. But we'd be interested to see what you guys think in the comments or on Twitter. Let us know.
I have a question.
Yes,
If you're Jared and he's Richard,
I've thought about this.
I hope I'm big head, but I don't know if I am.
I feel like Christian.
I don't know how to
Can I
answer
be
that
Jin-
without
can-
being insulting.
Can I be
it's
Jin
insulting,
Yang?
Yeah. I could see
Christian
Jin
is
Yang
Dinesh,
because-
right?
I think Christian...
No.
Well, because I
He's
gotta be
not
honest...
foreign. You're Dinesh.
What? Oh, wow.
I told you, I don't know how to
man.
answer any of this without being insulting.
I'm not dark enough to be Guilfoyle.
That's how I feel. Like, Nate, I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel like you've got more darkness than Christian. Do you think so?
So he's more.
I'm Guilfoyle.
yeah, I think
I
you're
would say,
definitely
I would
Guilfoyle.
definitely
Yeah.
say that you're
Right.
Guilfoyle.
That's
So
the
if-
only reason
if
why.
I have to
I
be,
just want you to be my community partner. That's all.
That's fine. Yeah, I just, you know, I think that I do like to karaoke. You know what? I probably am
And
Dinesh.
you
See?
get to be
Yeah.
Kumail, not Gianni.
See?
Yeah,
And
I
if we
mean,
could
telling
be
you.
any of the series regulars, we'd want to be Kumail. That's the
telling
thing.
you.
So I'd want to be Oscar nominated for the
All right,
amazing
cool.
movie.
So
I wrote
I'm
this
right,
year.
basically.
I think that's what the takeaway is there. Yeah, is that you're
You're a
absolutely
more
right.
competent Dinesh. Okay, so I mentioned comments. Don't forget, guys, it really helps us if you rate us on iTunes. iTunes works. Speaking of tech and algorithms, the more ratings we get, the more people see our show, and we do this for free, and we do it as super fans of the show. So if you help us by rating, you're also helping yourself by pushing this out for us. So you can do that on iTunes. Give us 5 stars. We'd really, really appreciate it. All right, it's time for Silicon Valley in real life. One of the stories I was going to
We
mention...
need theme music for this.
We
segment.
do.
definitely
I need to
do.
make a drop for it. One of the segments, or one of the stories I have was slightly teased by Nate, which is okay. It's good. It shows
You want to
how
explain what
relevant-
the segment is?
That's true. For those of you tuning in for the first time, I have 3 stories here. 2 of them are true and 1 of them is false. And you guys need to guess which of the 3 stories is false. I pull these stories from actual real-life nonfiction stories that happen in the world of Silicon Valley. Okay, the first one is the story of the self-pausing video game emulator. So, an MIT student created an algorithm where an intelligent player, a robot, could get the highest score possible in any NES game by kind of breaking down how the video games work and making sure that they can put every input in that maximizes their ability to play the game. When this robot went to go play Tetris, it eventually just paused the game forever, and they weren't able to unpause it. And it's because with Tetris, there's no way to win. So the only way the machine could figure out how to win was by pausing it. And the creator says that the only winning move is not to play in Tetris. So that's one of our stories.
Very War Games-esque.
Very War Games-esque, exactly. The second story we have is the Alexa dollhouse loop. What happened in this story was a little girl accidentally ordered a dollhouse on her Alexa because, it's connected to Amazon Prime. And then the news in that town ran a story about that happening. And on the news, they said, this girl said, Alexa, order me a dollhouse.
Wait.
Unfortunately.
The news ran a story on the lady ordering a dollhouse from her Alexa?
Yeah.
Well, so it's a little girl who ordered it.
It's a little girl who ordered it.
And it's probably going to be somewhere in small town America.
Yes.
So if you've ever seen local news, this story being on the news is not that
Not
hard.
all of us are from California, Nate.
Okay.
Yeah, in Ohio, this would be at the top of
That's
the
right.
newscast.
The news there is that she was under 18, being able to order on her
Yes.
parents'
I
credit
didn't
card.
realize that. I thought it was the mom that ordered
That's okay. It was
it.
the
And
little-
that's
she
why I
was 6 years
Why
old.
is this news?
No, that would be at like
Mom
the half-hour
buys
mark on
daughter.
the Ohio news.
She's a 6-year-old girl who ordered this.
got it,
The problem
got it.
was on the news, they actually said, and so when this little girl said, Alexa, order me a dollhouse, and every single Alexa in every house in that town then ordered a dollhouse. So there were thousands of dollhouses shipped to this town because Alexa heard the news reporter say that. Does that make sense?
It makes
Yes.
sense.
Great.
That's a South Park reference.
Yes. Finally, we have... I was referencing South Park. Finally, we have Sophia the Robot, on whom Fiona, we're assuming is loosely based, was actually granted citizenship in Yemen, which has caused many to view the incident as a case study for human rights contradictions, because in Yemen, women can't even vote or are granted equal divorce rights, and yet they give this female robot citizenship. So there's some irony there, and some potential commentary that we can look into about the state of human rights versus, android rights, not only in the first world, but in the second and the third world. Those are the 3 stories. 2 of them are true.
2 of them are true.
Yes.
Yeah, one is not.
One is a lie.
Sophie and the first one is true. The computer Tetris one.
Okay.
The Alexa one is not true.
Okay.
Yeah, you just stretched it way too far. I would have believed you earlier, but
It went too far.
When it was everybody in the town, because Alexa actually doesn't work that way. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Alexa one also.
So this is kind of a shady move. The first one's technically the lie because it was the
It
United
wasn't
Arab
Yemen.
Emirates.
I said that earlier.
wait, how's that the first one? That was the third one that he said.
Oh, sorry. The
at the
third
top
one.
of
The
it.
Third one.
The
It
third
would-
one.
Everybody watching should be looking at Jeff's sheet. It's the
Right.
first one on his sheet.
Sherry.
So Sophie, the Sophie story.
Is real.
The
It's
Sophie
false.
story is false because it happened in the United Arab Emirates and not in Yemen.
All right. I'm gonna say that I think that the fake thing about your story shouldn't be the country it
country.
happened in.
That's kind of...
So wait, the Alexa thing did happen.
It happened.
All right.
Yeah.
I feel like, look, I don't trust Alexa. I do unplug it all the time.
Yeah.
Because she'll just talk to you in the middle of dinner. Like, we're not talking to you,
Terrifying.
Alexa. So that has me even more. I think I might just put it in a box and leave it there now. now that you
You're
told me that.
evil.
I'm just gonna
I
go to
know,
your
it's kind
house
of
and
a
start
shady
ordering.
Yeah, I know. Phil's just gonna be like, Alexa, get a handgun.
I honestly found 3 stories I liked, and I was like, I'm going to read all of them. And I wasn't feeling
So I'm
creative
just
enough
gonna
to make one up.
change
So,
one.
so I changed one word. Shady on
All
my
right,
part. But
all right.
everyone learned
Just
something
remember
today.
that next time we play the game.
All right, we are going to quickly go through some of our news. Phil, take it away.
AfterBuzz TV News.
But while we may not be getting a Gavin Belson signature box, shares for Box did go up by 15%. Now's a great time to buy. FYI, the website's description of the box is be productive wherever you are. Box enables you to securely share files, collaborate, and get real work done with anyone from any device. Sound familiar? I think it does.
This is real?
Yes, I'm not
man.
making this thing up. I have sources.
That's awesome.
This is in the
It's not
New York
you.
Post. Look
No,
up
the
the
New York
box,
Post,
New York
but-
Post. Shares of Box get a boost. Just look that up. And speaking of things that are also real, Pied Piper is real. A new decentralized internet, actually we're calling it the decentralized web, is coming. To learn about building a decentralized web, the show consulted CEO, CTO, and COO of the real world teams that of Made Safe in Scotland. As Lambert says, one of the people, they were delighted by being able to offer up advice. It is great that the decentralized web is getting such a high profile thanks to the show. You only have to look at what's going on with Facebook and Cambridge Analytica to understand how important it is to build an alternative internet that gives users control back. So their other competitor is Anami Mouse.
Ooh, okay.
So we're getting there's competitors already
Competition.
All right, this one's an interesting one. This one's the highbrow news, I thought, for you guys. So, Thomas Middleditch plays a trumpet. More specifically, the AV Club got Thomas Middleditch to play a trumpet. Yep, that's it. Juliet, can you just play the clip of Thomas Middleditch playing a trumpet? It's quite intriguing. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm glad that they're keeping busy at the AV Club.
It is before you.
Okay.
So he's got a
And
VR
I
rig,
have to do this.
and he has to just
Oh, you
lick
like this?
/ play the trumpet.
You can make it gentle. I like it.
Oh, well, I don't know what it is. I don't know where it is.
Start.
This is breaking news. This is we are bettering society.
Yeah, there you go. Go low.
Play
I'm
it,
so aware of
play
how
it.
this looks.
Go low. Go,
If you like
go
Silicon
low.
Valley and you like yourself a good penis joke,
Which is great for me.
this is right there.
It's very phallic.
All right, we can pause it. You
like a
guys can play the clip
candelabra.
for yourselves if you want.
It's very entertaining.
Another clip. We don't have to play the full thing, but just somewhere in the background. Thomas Middleditch did attend the Ellen DeGeneres show, where he is a self-proclaimed fan or stalker of the ABC franchise Bachelorette.
Oh, yeah, we actually asked him about that as well. So let's just say AfterBuzz got the first hot take on his Bachelor fandom before Ellen, but
Look at that.
Yeah.
And Jeff is also a closeted Bachelor fan.
yeah, I produced a show here at the network, so I've gotten into it. It's,
So you're out of the closet.
I'm out of the closet.
You let everybody know you're part of Bachelor Nation.
Me and Middleditch, people say we sound alike, and we both like The Bachelor.
Indeed, and if you're just want to get Thomas Middleditch more and more, well, he will be in attendance at the Nantucket Film Festival this summer, where Ben Stiller will lead a comedy roundtable with him in attendance.
Amazing, cool. I would love to see Stiller and Middleditch on a panel together. I feel like they'd have good chemistry. Smart guys.
Indeed, but it's not all about Thomas. The show is so much more, and in fact, it's all about Kumail Nanjiani, who has been named by Time as one of the 100 most influential people, earning a place among lots of people.
He deserves that.
He is one of 99, among Hugh Jackman, Gal Gadot, Nicole Kidman, Jimmy Kimmel, Prince Harry. Look at all these people.
Clearly, that is who I am on the show then, because I belong with all those people
Yes,
as well. So
they're
I'm
bringing
glad
it
we
home.
established that before this story.
He is featured in the Pioneers section on the list, which honors people who have broken new ground in their respective fields of work.
I get that. For those of you guys who haven't seen The Big Sick, I think it reinvents the romantic comedy, I would argue. That was an excellent movie, one of my favorites from last year. Phil, thank you for that news. Any thoughts? Anything? Check it out, guys. All those stories.
Nate, you gonna go play the trumpet? I think that's a yes.
I'm not.
Okay. That's our show besides our last segment, which is, of course, our AfterBuzz TV predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV
Predictions. Phil.
What do I predict? Well, based off the preview, so we do get Fiona being put into the house. Now, what'll be interesting is that Big Head owns this house.
Yes.
So, and we've seen him be awkward with women. Where this goes, I have no idea. But I'm excited to kind of see Gavin and Richard go head to head a little bit more. I think that's where we're headed. So that's what I predict.
Yeah, I think that's what we're, maybe not even next week, but throughout the rest of the season. I think that, Gavin is reinvigorated for the fight. And, he's already wanted to destroy everything in their lives earlier this season, but now I think he's going to be much more aggressive. I don't know where he goes from the Box 3 Signature Edition, but I think he's really going to step up his plans for some new internet. Maybe he's going to buy all of Jin Yang's companies in China and then try and make a profit off that.
Box 4, more girth.
Ooh, bigger, longer, uncut. Box 4.
Nate.
More dick jokes.
It's the title of the
That's
South
my
Park
prediction.
movie.
More dick jokes. Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that's a safe prediction.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I still think we're gonna see that group of coders that he hired that have nothing to do now on the Hooli campus.
Yes.
I'm waiting for them to come back.
I do hope we get a payoff of that, because it'll be a missed opportunity if the season ends and we don't see them.
I have a feeling we'll be seeing some more of them because, as I mentioned, we have two guests next week, Rachel Rosenblum and Chris Acquiano, who are going to be here and mention that there might be some stuff with what they're doing in the in Pied Piper. So that's next week, guys. Make sure you tune in. That's 4 p.m. every Monday. We had the chat open today. It seems like it might not have been super active, but we're going to be back in it next week. Tune in live, especially because we'll have guests, so you can ask them anything you want about the show. Ask them if Kumail Nanjiani's nice in real life. I'm hoping he is. I've met him and he was pretty nice, but that was 5 minutes. So they'll have all the inside scoop, so join our chat. And again, guys, we're here every Monday at 4 p.m. I just said it, but you should definitely tune in. Also, this episode is directed by Gillian Robespierre. I got to interview her last spring, and you should check out some of her stuff because she's a sort of an indie filmmaker, but her movies are very good. If you guys want to connect with me, you can do that online at Jeffrey C. Graham. How about the rest of you?
Guys, you can find me on all social media at DogLikeNate.
I'm at Christian DMZ, Twitter and Instagram, and a few hours from now I'll be doing Marvel TV Weekly, 7 Pacific, right here at AfterBuzz.
And I'm at Phil Svitek, and you can also tweet us your questions. And of course, if you like me and Christian together, we do a show called South Park Weekly, where the dick jokes just keep flying.
Yeah, you wouldn't be let down, Nate.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week at 4 p.m. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.